in the heart of the enchanted forest, where the trees whispered secrets of old and the air shimmered with magic, Eliora spoke to the winds. "What troubles you, spirits of the air?" she asked, her emerald eyes reflecting the canopy above. The winds carried a warning, a murmur of darkness creeping towards the heart of Mithera. It was the beginning of a tale that would become legend. Eliora, an enchantress of unmatched wisdom and power, knew that the prophecy she had discovered was coming true. Selzer, the dark sorcerer, was gathering his army of shadows, and soon he would launch an assault on the enchanted forest. The fate of their world hung in the balance. She turned to Bastian, a mysterious warrior whose sword seemed to control the very elements themselves. They had met by chance, their paths crossing in the forest. Bastian, it seemed, was on a quest for redemption, seeking to atone for a sin he had committed in the past. Eliora had shared her fears about Selzer with him, and Bastian had pledged his aid in stopping the dark sorcerer. Together, they set out on a journey through the winding paths of the enchanted forest, their steps guided by ancient runes and mythical creatures. Along the way, they discovered a hidden cave, its walls covered in glowing symbols. It was here that they learned of a ritual that could help them defeat Selzer, but it required an object of great power, a crystal from the heart of the forest. With renewed determination, they raced deeper into the forest, battling shadowy creatures and navigating treacherous terrain. They encountered a wise centaur named Argus, who had seen the dark times before and warned them of the great power Selzer wielded. He gave them a medallion that would aid them in their quest, imbuing them with strength and speed. Finally, they reached the heart of the forest, where the great crystal stood, glowing with an ethereal light. As they approached, they felt the weight of their destiny pressing down upon them. They knew that if they failed, the enchanted forest would fall and Mithera would be plunged into eternal darkness. With a deep breath, they drew their weapons and prepared to face whatever lay ahead. As Bastian and Eliora stepped through the swirling vortex of the portal in front of them, a shroud of darkness enveloped them, as if night itself had taken form. The fortress of Selzer loomed like a monolith of despair, its towering spires piercing the sky, casting long, ominous shadows that slithered across the cold, stone floors. The air was thick with an oppressive aura of malevolence, a tangible presence that seemed to claw at their very souls. The walls of the fortress were alive with the macabre dance of shadows, twisting and writhing in a silent ballet of darkness. The faintest of lights flickered sporadically, casting eerie glows that only served to deepen the surrounding gloom. It was a place untouched by the warmth of the sun, a domain where light feared to tread. Selzer's minions, a grotesque legion of shadow creatures, emerged from the abyssal corners of the fortress. Their forms were fluid and ever-changing, a nightmarish horde of darkness given life. Their eyes, if they could be called such, glowed with a sinister, crimson light, and their claws and fangs gleamed with a malevolent sharpness. They moved with a haunting grace, silent as the grave, save for the soft whisper of their ethereal forms gliding across the stone. Bastian and Eliora, standing back to back, faced the onslaught with a resolve that belied the fear that gnawed at their hearts. Their weapons, imbued with ancient magic and the strength of their unwavering spirit, shone like beacons in the consuming void. Each strike, each spell cast, was a declaration of defiance, a testament to their determination to vanquish the encroaching darkness. Selzer's throne room was a cathedral of shadows, its vaulted ceilings lost in the impenetrable blackness above. The sorcerer himself was a figure of towering malevolence, his presence a suffocating force of pure, unadulterated evil. His grin, a twisted contortion of delight and anticipation, promised nothing but suffering and despair. "I've been expecting you," he hissed, his voice a serpentine slither that echoed through the chamber. "But you are too late." With a dramatic flourish, he unleashed his power, and the room erupted in a cataclysmic explosion of blinding light. When the light receded, the impossible had occurred. Selzer lay defeated, his dark reign brought to an abrupt end. The crystal, pulsating with a serene light, lay cradled in Eleora's hands, its radiance a stark contrast to the lingering shadows. The fortress, once a bastion of fear and darkness, began to reveal its true form. The oppressive shadows retreated, unveiling the grandeur of what had been hidden. Majestic arches, intricate carvings, and remnants of beauty that had survived the corruption of Selzer's rule. Bastian and Eleora, their gazes locked, shared a moment of silent understanding. Their eyes, windows to their weary souls, spoke volumes of the ordeal they had endured. In their shared glance was the unspoken promise of hope, the knowledge that together they had turned the tide against the darkness that sought to consume their world. The battle was over, but their journey was far from complete. As they stood amidst the ruins of Selzer's fortress, they knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges anew. Yet, in this moment of triumph, they found solace in the bond they had forged, a bond that would guide them through whatever trials the future held. "We did it," Eleora said, her voice barely audible above the winds that now howled through the fortress. "We saved Mythera." Bastian nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Yes," he replied, "but at what cost?" The question hung in the air as they walked through the ruins, the weight of their actions pressing down upon them like a leaden cloak. As they made their way back through the portal, they knew that their journey was far from over. The world they had saved was still fragile, and there were many more challenges yet to come. But for now, they could take a moment to breathe, to savor the victory they had won, and to prepare for whatever lay ahead. For in the world of Mythera, there will always be darkness, and heroes like Bastian and Eleora will be needed to keep the light burning bright. They emerged from the portal, the sunlight streaming down through the trees of the enchanted forest, casting a warm glow upon their faces. Argus the centaur waited for them, his wise eyes studying them carefully. "You have done well," he said, his voice gentle and strong. "But remember, the world needs heroes not just in times of darkness, but also in times of peace. The road ahead will not be easy, but know that you are not alone." Bastian and Eleora exchanged glances, each feeling the weight of Argus' words. They knew that their journey had only just begun, but they also knew that they had each other, and that together, they could face whatever came their way. Hand in hand, they set off once more into the heart of the enchanted forest, ready to face the world that awaited them. The forest seemed to sigh around them, as if aware of the great change that had taken place. Birds sang sweetly in the trees, and a soft breeze rustled the leaves, carrying with it the scent of springtime. They wandered for hours, lost in thought and conversation, their steps guiding them to a secluded clearing where a small stream babbled over smooth stones. There, they sat down together, their backs against the trunk of an ancient tree, and for the first time in a long while, they allowed themselves a moment of peace. The warmth of the sun on their faces, the sound of the forest around them, it all seemed to wash away the cares of the world, if only for a little while. They spoke of their hopes and fears, of the people they had left behind and the lives they wanted to lead. They spoke of the darkness they had faced and the light that had guided them through it, and of the choices they had made along the way. And as they sat there, in that peaceful clearing, they knew that even though the world around them might change, the bond they shared would always be a constant reminder of the power of love, of friendship, and of courage. The hours passed, and shadows began to lengthen, signaling the approach of evening. They rose from their spot by the stream, brushing the last of the leaves and twigs from their cloaks. With one last look around the clearing, they turned to face the path ahead, their steps now stronger, their hearts fuller. "Where do we go from here?" Bastian asked, his voice full of the anticipation of new adventures. Eliora smiled softly, her eyes shining in the fading light. "I don't know," she replied, "but wherever it is, we'll face it together." They set off once more, their footsteps crunching softly on the leaves, their shadows stretching long before them as they walked into the gathering twilight. The world lay open before them, full of possibilities and perils, and they knew that they would face it all, hand in hand, side by side. As the stars began to twinkle in the deepening sky, they came upon a small village nestled among the hills. Lanterns flickered through the windows, casting a warm glow onto the cobblestone streets. They wandered through the village, greeting the people they met with smiles and kind words. News of their victory spread quickly, and soon a small crowd had gathered around them, cheering their names and offering them food and shelter for the night. Bastian and Eliora accepted their gratitude graciously, but as they stood before the villagers, they felt a weight settling into their hearts. They knew that their heroics had bought only a brief respite and that the world they had saved was still fragile. But as they looked into the faces of the people who had gathered to celebrate their deeds, they also saw hope and determination and the will to carry on, to face the challenges that lay ahead. And so, as the night wore on, they shared stories and songs and listened to the dreams and fears of the villagers. They knew that they could not rest on their laurels, but that their actions had given the people of Mythera a chance to reclaim their lives, to rebuild their world, and to find a new future. Together, they would face whatever came their way, and they would do so not as heroes, but as friends, as allies, as part of something greater than themselves. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, they bid farewell to the villagers, promising to return one day soon. Hand in hand, they made their way out of the village and into the countryside beyond, the world before them as vast and mysterious as it had ever been. But they did not travel alone. They were accompanied by the spirits of the people they had met, the voices of those they had inspired, and the knowledge that they were part of something larger than themselves, something that would endure long after they were gone. And so, Bastian and Eliora walked on, their steps guided not by a destination, but by the belief that as long as they stayed true to themselves and to each other, they could face whatever challenges the world had in store for them, and that together, they could make Mythera a better place. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it.